Now the thing is that so we learned all of this about mobile devices, but at the end, like we have to do work in order to try and improve that, because if there's so many different platforms and if there's so many differences between those platforms, jQuery really has to work to try and make that better. So while a lot of mobile web development does happen on WebKit-based platforms, there are also a large number of other platforms, in the BlackBerry, mobile Firefox, Opera, all these, that you want your website to work really well on those as well. It's not just WebKit. So the big thing is that we want to make sure that jQuery and jQuery Mobile work everywhere and provide a really good experience everywhere. So the first phase of what we've been doing is working on Jquery Core. So this is improving the core jQuery library, trying to make it faster, but also to make sure that we fix bugs that exist on mobile platforms. So that way, if you're going to use jQuery on a BlackBerry device, or Windows Mobile, or iPhone, or what have you, it's going to work exactly how you would expect. Now, the important thing here is that we're not shipping two different versions of jQuery. We're not going to do a regular jQuery and a mobile jQuery. We're just going to have the one copy of jQuery that works on desktop browsers and mobile browsers together. So, because we find this to be really, really important, that if you're doing development, you really just want your application to work everywhere. You want it to work both in regular desktop browsers and on mobile browsers. So this is something that we're really pushing for. The second thing that we're working on is what we call jQuery Mobile. And jQuery Mobile is a user interface framework that you can use to build entire mobile web applications. So this is, ends up being very useful because it allows you to build something that looks really good and works, across, many platforms. So this is all the widgets and components that you need to build that good experience. Now, what's important about this is that the jQuery Mobile, it's built entirely on the principle of progressive enhancement, which means that you start with plain HTML. You start with a web page that works, and then you use jQuery Mobile to enhance it and to create a web page that is much more functional and much higher level. It works well on the top devices. Now, this is important because that means that devices that are low power or have low network or just don't have the capabilities needed to run a complex application, they will still have a plain HTML web page that'll work. And this allows jQuery Mobile to work on many more platforms as a result. So I wanted to demonstrate really quick a little bit about jQuery Mobile. So this here is the landing page for jQuery Mobile. I have it loaded up here it's just in Firefox here, but it works and looks really good across any platform that you use. So one of the important things that we do, and we can see that it looks really good, but one of the things that we did is that we're actually using almost no images here. This is done almost entirely with just HTML and CSS. So we're using a lot of the new CSS3 properties that exist. For example, in order doing drop shadows, doing gradients, all these different things to make the web page look really good. Now this is important because it allows us to provide jQuery Mobile and have it be really small as a result. We were able to have a really small file size without having to load it down with all these images. And one of the things that's interesting is that, in addition to looking good, is that it's also very themable. You can style it in many different ways. Just to show you an example, So, for example, we provide about 5 different themes by default that you can go in and mix and match. You can take one button or one component and style it in one way, completely different from another. So you can see you end up having themes that are darker or more blue or gray, what have you. Now, what's good about this is that it allows you to really have an experience that is very customized based upon where you are in the application. When we were looking at how people built mobile web applications, a lot of them built them in ways that really took advantage of the fact that when you're building a mobile web application, it's not going to look the same everywhere. You're going to really tailor the experience depending upon where you are. Now, additionally, when we were working on this, we wanted to make sure that it was going to be really easy to theme things. So we've documented everything about the theming framework so that you can really get in there and change how the framework looks, how all these components look, and really just customize it. Now, the important thing is that in Jquery Mobile is that we really try to take advantage of all the features provided by modern browsers. So this includes doing transitions, the new CSS transitions, being able to have like I said, all the sorts of drop shadows and things of that nature. So inside Jquery Mobile, we have a number of different components and things that you can use to build your application. So for example, we have dialogues that can pop up. We also have the sort of toolbars that you might expect. So we did a number of things in Jquery Mobile to really try and provide a consistent and good user experience across all platforms. Now, when we were doing this, we really wanted to, we were doing this because we found that a lot of other frameworks did things that made it far too slow. Now, one problem that exists, for example, is that if you're trying to build a web application for like the iPhone or Android, the fixed headers and footers won't work correctly. This is due to how those devices implement fixed positioning. But as a result, a lot of frameworks attempt to try and simulate scrolling. Now, we think that this is particularly slow and also has a lot of overhead. But what we're able to do is we implemented a different type of fixed position toolbar, so that if you scroll and then stop scrolling, the toolbars will come back at the end. So this we found to actually be rather usable. It's you're able to use it, you're able to see more while you scroll, and you're able to have the fixed toolbars that you want. But the important thing is that we're using native scrolling. We're using the native scrolling provided by the browser, which means it's much, much faster. And it's going to work across all browsers. One of the things that you can see here is we have one of our lists. We have different what are called list views. So you can have lists of data that the user can navigate through. And here's ones with pictures and thumbnails that you can browse. So let's see, you can also do, we also have a lot of form element styling so that you can make really complex forms. So this includes, being able to have like flip switches, sliders, checkboxes, all the sorts of things that you would expect from a form. Obviously, we try to make them look really good as well. And again, we're trying to use as much just regular CSS as we can. We also have, for example, select boxes. Now, the way we implement select boxes is rather interesting. we do it whenever you select an item, we have it come up as an overlay on top of the content. This is something that we do in every mobile browser. And the reason why we do this is that it allows it to have a really good experience that works everywhere. Now, this works especially well when you have a really long list. And so this is where, if you wanted to pick a state, there's a lot of them. Now, what's interesting about this is that we wanted to try and use the native scrolling provided by the browser. And the only way to do that we were able to find is that we actually hide the page that exists there and then just show this new select list. So that way you can scroll through them, find the item that you want, and then choose it. So just to kind of show you what I mean by progressive enhancement. So here, these are some more of these list views that I was talking about. But for example, here is a nested list view. Now, if we look at the source of this page, if we look at the source of this page, we can see some of the things that I was talking about earlier. So for example, here we have a page, we have a div with a data role of page. We have the header toolbar that we see at the top. Again, that's just a div with a data role of header. We have the content inside, and we have an under list with a role of list view. Now this means that this particular list has and inherits all those properties that you would see on any list view. Now what's interesting about this is that we can see we have different categories, in this case animals, pets, and then further items down the page. So this is a really large list here of items to navigate. So what we ended up doing is that we're able to look at the page and see that there's all these nested lists, but make sure that we only show a couple at a time. So that way you can navigate through just the top items. So for example, you can visit animals, you can look at farm animals, and then find a particular animal you're interested in. Now, this is really important because this is building off of the principle of progressive enhancement, where you're starting with a page with all your content in it already. So this will work in older browsers or browsers that don't have JavaScript. But at the same time, for browsers that are much more current, you're able to get the full experience. You're able to get this very nice navigable list that's easy to use. So this is, we think, an important distinction that will help it work better, or help mobile applications work better. So yeah, so we're very pleased with the Jquery Mobile work that we've been doing so far. We even have things in there to handle layouts on tablet devices and being able to handle like landscape mode and orientation changes. So if you're moving and rotating the devices. So these are all things that, again, we're very interested in, and we want to make sure that this is something that's going to work well not only on mobile phones but also on tablets and desktop devices as well.